This country has been built on the supremacy of God and the rule of law, and that's not happening right now.
Hello, my friends. Canada faces a critical federal election on April the 28th. After nearly a decade of brutal Liberal rule under Justin Trudeau, many Canadians feel their country has been transformed into a cesspool of anti-life, anti-family, anti-freedom ideology. Faith is mocked, truth is censored, the media is completely controlled by the left, and globalist forces are tightening their grip on our sovereignty. In the chaos, Canadians are desperate for leadership that defends life, family, and freedom. But there are also many Canadians asking themselves a very difficult question, and that is, if we're voting for someone outside the two main parties, outside the Liberals or outside the Conservatives, are we only splitting the vote and making things worse? Well, today on the John Henry Weston Show, I speak with two national leaders who are offering alternatives to the corrupt status quo, and I ask them both plainly, are you helping or are you hurting? Maxime Bernier, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. That's my pleasure.
Rod Taylor, thank you for joining us.
My pleasure and privilege. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Let's begin, as we always do, with the sign of the cross. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Ghost. Amen. So as you know, Maxime, LifeSite News is a pro-life, pro-family Catholic Christian website. Many in our audience are looking at the Canadian election because we're both US-based and Canada-based. And in the Canadian election particularly, this upcoming April 28th is for many people a real conundrum. We know that the Conservatives, by and large, do not support the social conservative agenda, and most of in fact, all of our followers are strongly pro-life, strongly pro-family, and Christian. What do we do in Canada with this kind of election coming up, where we have the horror of the Liberals that we just lived through for the past 10 years, and then it looks like only one alternative?
My answer to that is we must vote in line with our values. That's the most important. Be honest with yourself. If you are pro-life and a party that is more in favor of pro-life, you must support that party. If for you, mass immigration is a huge topic, and you want to support a party that is fighting that mass immigration, you must vote in line with your ideas. If political party is speaking that there's only two sexes and is there to promote the family values, you must support that if it's in line with your values, you must support that party. So what I'm telling you, if we want changes in this country, we'll have more chance to vote for what we believe and have the change that we want, instead of voting for the less evil of these two mainstream political parties.
So you're coming at this from a perspective as one who was a member of the Conservative Party in Parliament, and then you left that party and founded the PPC. What were for you the main reasons why you did that?
Like I said, in 2018, the Conservative Party of Canada at that time, I said, is morally and intellectually corrupt because they don't promote conservative values. And by doing that, they're giving credibility to the leftist narrative. And so I said, I don't want to waste my time with the conservative anymore. They don't want to discuss about abortion. They don't want to reopen the debate on abortion. For me, it is important to do that. And we have a proposal that is in line with that. And at the same time, I'm looking at the position of the Conservative Party right now. They are splitting the Liberal votes. To win, they will need to have a lot of support in the big GTA around Toronto. And you have people living in big cities or more leftist. So Poilievre is going on to that side to try to please them. So that's why, I wanted to have a political party when I was with them who will fight for the real issues that we have in our country, and they don't. I can go on about all these issues, but for me, I wanted to be real and to speak about important issues for the future of this country.
So as you know, Rod, your party is the only political party, federal party in Canada that is fully pro-life. Tell us about that.
Well, we began in 1986. I won't give you too long of an intro here to the Christian Heritage Party, but our founders in 1986 said, you know what, we've helped elect members of parliament. We've worked hard in their campaigns. They've gotten into office, and then on the things that we care most about, the protection of innocent human life, the support for traditional family values, and freedom of conscience, we have been disappointed. They have gotten into office, they've come under party discipline, and they have not done the things that we expected them to do. We need a party that's going to stand for these principles and not waver, not falter, not give in to the temptation to just want to get elected again, but to present these matters of conscience and to stand for them. So we've been doing that ever since. And yes, we have maintained life, family, and freedom is our theme for the past couple of elections. And where we have candidates, we are bringing that message: protection of innocent human life from conception to natural death, support for the traditional marriage between one man and one woman to the exclusion of all others, and of course, freedom of conscience and freedom of speech. Those important things. We have a ton of other policies. Of course, people used to say, tell us, oh, you're a one-issue party, talking about abortion and so on. No, no, no. We're not a one-issue party, but abortion is a one-party issue. We have been the candidates standing over the years in defense of the preborn, and we will continue to do that. But we do have policy, and if anyone thinks that we haven't looked at other issues, that's totally wrong.
Your position on abortion, at least the party's position on abortion, is to welcome an abortion debate that, as you said, ignores the hysterical feminists who have hijacked this issue. Can you explain your thinking here? What's, for you, an abortion debate, and what's it going to look like? And when do you want to see that happening in Canada here, and why?
Yeah, as soon as possible. We are the only national political party that is ready to reopen that debate. That won't come with the Conservative. When I'm saying that, I have a lot of our candidates who are pro-life, and I'm okay with that. What I don't like in our country right now is we have late-term abortion. For me, that's a murder. We need to stop that. And we are the only country in the Western world who that doesn't have any legislation on abortion. That's why you can have a late-term abortion. And it's happening in Canada. A couple of years ago, the Quebec government said 20 women in the U.S. to have a late-term abortion because they were not able to find a doctor here in Quebec to do that. So it's happening in Canada. We need to have a legislation that will stop that. But not only that, not, at the late term that must be illegal, except with very strict exceptions. But that being said, if you look at European countries, they have legislation on abortion after the first trimester. And that's what I want to promote, at least to have a legislation, and in the second trimester to have restriction on abortion. That will put Canada in the civilized country about immigration. That's something that we must do. And I'm saying to pro-life supporters, we need to win that. And, the big majority of Canadians are okay to have restriction on abortion after the first trimester. So let's do that. Let's have a debate in Parliament about that. That will be a free vote for everybody. And we have a lot of chances for that legislation to be adopted in Parliament. And after that, when we'll have that victory, that will be the end of the late-term abortion and all the murders that are happening in our country. We can have a discussion to, another discussion about abortion to try to have a legislation that would be more restrictive. But, if we can have that win, having some restriction after the first trimester, that would be a big win. And, we're not afraid to speak about that. The Conservatives and Poliev don't want, and their candidates don't have the right to speak about abortion. Our candidate, I said, it's part of our platform. People can go on our website and read our platform on abortion, peoplespartyofcanada.ca, 2 pages there. We are the only party that is having a platform on abortion. So if it's so important for you as a pro-life person, look at our platform. We will debate that until we win the debate. So we will push, these establishment politicians to engage in that debate. But right now, they don't want.
The Christian Heritage Party also, in its name, embraces Canada's formation, Canada's background as a Christian nation. It seems to have departed from our Christian roots. What's your take on what you would do, what the party would do to restore Christianity, to restore Christian culture in Canada?
That's really the issue, that our society has been pulled away from the basic tenets of Christianity. And, some people are afraid that because we have the word Christian in our name, that we're going to impose some kind of religious structure on non-believers. That's absolutely wrong. But Canada is great because we began on a Christian foundation. And even in 1982, the Charter of Rights and Freedoms under former Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau still included the opening phrase, "Canada is founded on principles that recognize the supremacy of God and the rule of law." We have, as you say, departed from those principles. The judges and even politicians have abandoned the respect for our Creator, the respect for the one who made us and put us here, made us in His image, and who has given us all things that pertain to life and godliness. And we think it's important. In fact, that's why that is tied together with our protection of innocent human life. We believe there's a firm foundation in the Bible. God is the creator of life, and He's the designer of human life. He says He's made us in His image. And I think when you try to protect the important things like the sanctity of life and so on, if you don't have a foundation to base it on, why would you stay connected to that principle? And I think that's the problem, is some of the parties have decided it's more important to get elected or reelected than it is to defend innocent human life. Well, that's so contrary to God's nature. We think it's important to tie our obedience to the actual where it comes from, the Creator and His Word.
Indeed. One of the things that's happened in Canada is many Catholics, many Christians, many pro-lifers have been forced out of the medical profession because they're unwilling to be involved in abortion. They're unwilling to be involved in euthanasia. And how would you or your party change that for medical practitioners who are pro-life Catholic and Christian?
Actually, they must be able to do what they want in line with their conscience. But, when we are saying that it will be illegal for them, that would be the solution. But, if you're a doctor, you must be able to do what is the best for your patient. And now you have these doctors that are not able to, and they are forced. And if they don't do that, they can lose their license. So for us, we will fight that. We need everybody to be able, every doctor to be able to help their patient and not killing babies, actually. It's a very complicated situation in Canada about that. It's complicated because you have the federal government that doesn't have any legislation on abortion. You have all these professional medical organizations that are promoting abortion. That must stop. So that's why we will change the criminal code to be sure that our position will be, if you do an abortion, a late-term abortion, it would be criminal. And, it's the only way to stop that.
For U.S. residents, creating a will has never been easier. Thanks to My Legacy Will, an online platform free of charge, you can now create your own will and choose to include LifeSite News in it. Specify where your funeral will take place, the number of masses to be offered for your soul, and how your estate will be distributed. We would be deeply grateful if you remembered LifeSite News in your will. Visit mylegacywill.com/LifeSite News. Thank you for your support, and may God bless you.
What was your take on the vaccine mandates, on the lack of freedom, the shutting down of churches? How would your government have acted differently?
Well, first of all, we know that we were lied to. The federal government for whatever reason, and around the world it was much the same, but they sort of followed the United States. It's funny because now they're so anti-American, expressing themselves in such hostile terms, and yet they followed Anthony Fauci and Bill Gates and the World Economic Forum, the WHO, World Health Organization. They followed those things to the point where they denied reality. They denied the truth about the vaccines, which we know now, at least anyone who's been paying attention and reading some of the papers from these wonderful doctors, like Dr. Peter McCullough and many others, that the vaccine was basically harmful, that it did not save lives. It actually harmed people. But the point was, even if they had been right, even if the vaccine had been helpful, to force someone against their will to take a foreign substance into their body is just wrong. We believe in freedom of conscience for every Canadian, and especially for the doctors and nurses. Some doctors were fired or have denied hospital privileges because they refused to participate in this unknown substance. We know a lot more about it now than we did then, but they went out there and they said, safe and effective. If you get this vaccine, you won't get sick. And then people like Justin Trudeau and Joe Biden come down with it multiple times after having multiple vaccinations, and they still stood there with a straight face and said it was effective. And the damage reports coming in now, the deaths, the heart problems that people are having, the young people that have died after getting the shot is phenomenal. So we certainly think it was wrong for the government to force their opinion on people, to force people to do something they didn't want to do. And we saw it all acted out with the Freedom Convoy, the Truckers Convoy, where peaceful protesters were abused by almost military police force there, and where our Prime Minister Justin Trudeau refused to even meet with them to discuss the issues. I mean, he's going to meet with anybody else that comes to Ottawa to protest, even if they are breaking the law and promoting violence and everything else. But he refused to meet with these peaceful protesters because he was so insistent on, forcing his vaccine and his, protocols on everybody. Grandmas who maybe gave $25 to support the Freedom Convoy had their bank accounts frozen. And you have people like Tamara Leach and Chris Barber still being dragged through the courts today. They've been tormented by this lawfare, not able to maintain their regular employment and everything else because they're having to sit in the court all this time and being severely abused. And that's really one of the concerns, is we see the courts backing up the government on these things. And I don't know how we got to this point, but when the courts become the puppet of the existing government, we are very close to a dictatorship.
Now, you were a real hero for our movement during the COVID insanity. You fought the lockdowns. You fought the forced mandates and forced vaccine. You've also spoken out about the whole LGBT insanity in Canada. Tell us a little bit about your stance on LGBT and how it relates to freedom.
To freedom, but also, that ideology, that woke and gender radical ideology, it is destroying our civilization. It is against Western values and Western civilizations. That's why, I'm saying there's only two sexes. That's why I'm saying, a young girl cannot become a boy. There's no transition. That does not exist. And so our position is very different than the one of the Conservative and the Liberals. And every MP in Ottawa who did vote for the Bill C4, that's the bill that is promoting mutilation of children. And so if you have a children that is not, suffer for gender dysphoria, you must be able to help your kid to accept their own body. And so it's not the case right now with that bill. You can go in jail for 5 years by doing that. So yes, we are proud of our position on that, fighting for families, fighting for common sense, and ending all that gender ideology and repealing that Bill C4. And all the money that the federal government is giving to third-party organization to promote that radical agenda. So we will stop that. And actually, that's very important because, as you know, in our Constitution, it is written in our Constitution that this country has been built on the supremacy of God and the rule of law. And that's not happening right now. You know, we don't have the rule of law with that woke ideology. And so we need to come back to respect our constitutions and our values.
Indeed. You mentioned God there. Do you believe Canada is still a Christian nation or could be again?
Yeah, that is the foundation of our nation. We believe in the freedom of religious, yes, but, you know, we must promote ideas and values that are in line with our history and our culture. And that is part of our history and in our culture.
Beautiful. And do you believe yourself that there is a place for God in politics today?
Absolutely. You know, for me personally, yes. For other politicians, maybe not. But, you know, I don't want to impose my personal fate on other people. But for me, you know, it's important. I'm a Catholic and, you know, that's my religion. And I try to fight for what I believe.
Tough question for you, Rod. A lot of people right now have seen the demolition of Canada for 10 years under the Liberals, under Trudeau. It was like a wrecking crew. Canada was already in a bad state, but we have just gone from bad to worse to a point where people feel kind of hopeless about Canada. Tons of Canadians thinking, gosh, when Trump announced the 51st state, a lot of people said, really? Hopefully, because it's so pathetic, really so pathetic. So what do you say to people who say, look, I love the Christian Heritage Party. I'm a Christian myself. I want nothing other than Christianity in our land. But I think if I vote for a CHP candidate or PVC candidate or any other of the other party candidates, that it's a wasted vote. My vote's not going anywhere. The only really two parties we have are the Conservatives and the Liberals. Is it not a wasted vote? What do we do?
Well, we say that the only wasted vote is for a candidate or a party that doesn't represent your deeply held beliefs, because every Canadian of voting age gets that one sacred vote where they can express themselves. And theoretically, if every Canadian actually voted for what they believe, instead of falling into this trap of voting for maybe the lesser of two evils or, you know, someone who they think has a chance to win, that's how our society has gone downhill the way it has. Because over the years, people keep voting for the lesser of two evils. In the area of abortion, which I know to your viewers and listeners is a key issue, as it is for us. When only 1 or 2% of the people vote for a pro-life candidate because they're afraid that their vote's going to be wasted, the other parties look at that result and they say, oh, I guess nobody cares about that issue. Why should I care about it? But if everybody actually voted their convictions, that we would get a much different outturn at the end, whether a candidate is actually elected or not. But if we get 10, 15, 20% of the vote, that's going to speak to the other parties, that unfortunately right now are ignoring this elephant in the room. And what we say in general about the abortion issue in politics is, as long as we, the people of Canada, continue to tolerate the shedding of innocent blood, we cannot receive God's blessing. God will not bless us for compromising on this critical issue of the protection of innocent human life. Our land, the Bible uses the phrase, is polluted with innocent blood. And, we want God's blessing. We want his blessing on our economy, on our crops, on our weather, on our safety in our streets, on our education system, on our healthcare system. And while we violate that most basic command, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit murder, we cannot really justly go back to God and say, well, we're violating your commands, but, please bless us anyway. It just doesn't work that way.
You've warned about globalist institutions like the UN and the World Health Organization infringing on Canadian rights, the rights of Canadians. How would your party rectify that?
We are the only party that is not globalist. We are promoting our country first, Canadian first, and that's not a slogan because we will withdraw from the World Health Organization. We will withdraw from the Paris Accord that is promoting migration. For us, it must be a privilege to be a Canadian. We will have that moratorium on immigration, a pause on immigration for a couple of years. The time to integrate all these people who came to Canada the last 10 years. I can speak also about Paris Accord, like I said, but all, that woke ideology, we will save a lot of money because we won't give money to the UN when the UN is promoting socialism and globalism. So we will save a lot of money there. We will bring the money home, all the money that we are giving to foreign aid to promote woke ideology. We will cut that and we'll be able to save $10 billion. So yes, when I'm saying that, we are a sovereign country and we don't need these international organizations to tell us what to do or not to do like they did during COVID-19.
Rod, thank you so much for joining us. Final thoughts before you leave, and anything else to tell us?
We have, at this point, and this kind of goes back to the question about so-called vote splitting and so on, we have 32 candidates across the country. We have 5 in BC, a bunch in Ontario, and a bunch in Alberta, and one in Quebec. We wish we had candidates in every district, but one way of looking at it is even if the people in those 32 districts vote for a Christian Heritage candidate, it's probably not going to ultimately affect the outcome of the selection. Even in my riding or in any of the ridings, if I were to win, any of our candidates were to go to Ottawa as a member of Parliament, we would be close supporters of the Conservatives on most issues, on the economy, probably on immigration, on various things. But we would hold their feet to the fire, and they deserve to have their feet held to the fire on the issues of abortion, medical assistance in dying, and the protection of children from manipulation in the school system regarding sexuality. All those critical issues, we would stand for life, family, and freedom. And I think the Conservatives actually would benefit from having us in there. We had one Conservative member of Parliament some time ago told me he never minded when the Christian Heritage Party candidate was on the ballot because they would get the tough questions and he would get the votes. Well, we'd like to get the tough questions and the votes. We're prepared to deal with these issues that so many politicians are trying to avoid. And when Canadians wake up and say, I'm sick of seeing our country go downhill, I want actually to see life, family, and freedom promoted, Christian values upheld, and prosperity restored, we'll be a happier people and a happier nation. So thank you for your work at LifeSite and the Interim and all the work, the Campaign Life Coalition, all kind of related organizations. But we appreciate so much that you have faithfully continued in your support for these important issues. And we tip our hat to you, ask you to continue to do that work until we see innocent life protected from conception until natural death.
Amen to that. I've seen some of your supporters. They said, I love Maxime Bernier, but I'm going to be voting for the Conservative Party because we can't have another year or another term of the Liberals. It will destroy Canada. How do you respond?
Well, I don't think that's my supporters. I think that's people on social media who are saying that, but they're pro-conservatives. And, for me, the Liberals Party, yes, is driving us at full speed into a wall, but the Conservative will do the same thing at a different speed. For me, vote for your values on the most important issue, abortion, woke ideology, Bill C-4. They are promoting that woke ideology and we are not. So if you vote for what you believe, I hope that we'll be able to change this country. And what we are looking to do, it's that common sense revolution. You know, ideas are very powerful, and we will be more influential if we have more support. And, you know, that's the beginning of a big revolution. We won't win that in one election, but we will win that revolution for sure, because we are in line with, you know, our constitution, our values, and our history as a country. Be proud of your history, of your culture, and vote in line to support and to save your country.
Excellent. Maxime Bernier, thank you so much for joining us here on the John Henry Weston Show. God bless you.
I appreciate really the fact that you are giving me that opportunity, John Henry. I'm very pleased. Thank you very much. And if you know, they want to know more about the People's Party, they can go on our website, peoplespartyofcanada.ca, and read our platform on wokeism, against wokeism, abortion, and all that. It's all on our website.
Beautiful. Thank you so very much. Rod Taylor, thank you so much for joining us. Christian Heritage Party, chp.ca. God bless you.
God bless you.
And God bless all of you. And we'll see you next time.